Hello and welcome to the VR Untethered podcast, where once again we are untethered from pretty much everything.
Yes, which is a good thing.
It's tethered to my laptop, so.
I'm tethered to my tablet, but it's funny that you should mention it. I was listening to a discussion last night, not related at all to technology, even though one of the persons discussing it was a Facebook employee for 17 years. And they were talking about these different philosophies. At one point, the guy says, the only way to live your life is untethered. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, ooh, we need to get him on the show.
Maybe.
Yeah, he could be our prophet.
Mascot. He can be our mascot.
Ooh, he's a little too fuzzy for a mascot. He's even fuzzier than me, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well, he fit in with us.
Well, Fuzzy Wuzzy was the bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy was the mascot.
That's true.
But Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. So.
That's not a good thing.
Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy, was he?
No, Fuzzy wasn't.
Okay. Okay. That bit of nonsense over.
Okay. Hang on with the show, right? Yes. So, what are my highlights for the week?
So, do you have any highlights this week, Brad?
This week, I do have a highlight. I've been unable to achieve internet for about a week and a half. I'm currently vacationing, and I'm finally staying at a place that has obviously halfway decent internet, being that we're able to do our podcast.
Yes.
And so yesterday, like I say, it's halfway decent, because yesterday I had to upgrade my system and install several games I had purchased over the last month that never really got installed. And it took me from 10 a.m. yesterday till about 9 p.m. last night to get about halfway to where I need to be. But my system is now installed, and I think every game I've purchased is installed, but there's a few updates I still have to do.
Okay.
And I'm loving the new pass-through, being able to just walk into pass-through, and it's working perfectly now. And my guardian doesn't follow me around the room anymore.
But that's always good.
Yeah, that's great. That was definitely a problem.
Yeah.
And so I played Star Wars Pinball. Yep. And it was fun. It was really kind of fun. I didn't learn how to shrink myself down into the pinball machine yet, but when you go up to the pinball machine and the AT-AT walks over to your side, and one of the little AT-ATs is walking around there, and it feels very Star Warsy.
Right.
And it feels like pinball. It really does. Your hands are right, and it's very, there's nothing to think about. It's very intuitive, except for using the Force. I haven't used the Force. Like I said, I played arcade mode, regular mode, basic. Arcade mode, you get to use the Force, and I have no clue what they're talking about. So at that point, I'll...
Interesting. The ball shall go well.
Well, it's funny because they say shoot at the TIE fighter, and as you pull the plunger back for the ball, these like little cannons come up and they're firing around. And
yeah,
it's certainly worth the price.
Yeah,
and they have a lot of tables, and you can play for the light side or the dark side. They threw it all in there, so that's kind of
cool.
Nice. I enjoyed it. I have to say, I took like 20 minutes or so. It was nice. I came back to my room, which I need to be able to have my VR headset functioning, because between noon and 4 is when you turn into Colonel Sanders' Kentucky Fried Chicken if you walk outside for more than 15 minutes. So.
I thought you just turned into a limp noodle because of all the water.
Well, yes, but once all the water leaves your body tends to hit the pavement, and the sun does not relent at that point. They can serve you on a bun. So
fair enough. Yeah. So the reason why Mexico has siestas, huh?
Oh yes, I now fully understand the siesta, and it's funny because the town wakes up at like 8 a.m., shuts back down around noon, and then opens back up around 4, and stays open till around, depending if it's a bar or a restaurant, 10 to 1 or whatever.
Right.
But I would have to say there's more bars per square inch here than Key West, and probably as many T-shirts.
I'm assuming that's a lot of T-shirts, or
Well, this is like I said, this is Gilligan's Island meets the souvenir shops. So I'm a block from the jungle and a block from the Pacific. Not
Okay.
even a block from the Pacific. So it's like definite hideaway.
Right.
And it's beautiful. Really no complaints other than the fact that you got to have a lot of sunblock and a lot of mosquito repellent.
I believe it.
So.
Yeah. I've been down in Mexico a couple times, but not in like probably at least 20 years have I been down there. But I do remember there were some really fun experiences said to be had down there. So, like,
It's a great place.
I went deep sea fishing with my dad and my brother on a rented charter boat tour thing, with a captain and all that. And I ended up catching a sailfish. Made the captain very happy because we decided to let him have it instead of us taking it. So he probably made a lot of money off of that. What?
I was going to say, so you paid for the boat and he got the sailfish to sell. That's pretty cool. Yeah, a friend of mine he said, "Is there good fishing down there?" And I'm like, "This is the southernmost you get in Mexico, and every town on every side of me lives off fishing. So yeah, I think that you could get a fishing boat here. I think you can work something out. Yeah, the fish down here is amazing.
Yeah.
It's been a much needed vacation.
Yep. It sounds like it.
But not a vacation from all of our friends here in YouTube land.
So that means you, Seba.
You, Seba. Oh, I also have Yimbapur. Yimbapur has been leaving me alone too. So.
Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, I have a highlight this week as well, as I usually do. I have been checking out Valheim in VR because it was on sale last weekend for like 20% off or whatever. So instead of $20, it was 15-ish or whatever. So I bought it. Just going, you know what? If I absolutely hate it, I'll return it. Because excuse me. Even though I play No Man's Sky, I'm not always a fan of survival games of that nature, where you are drop down and you have to craft and build. And, I'm not always a fan of that. And even No Man's Sky, I go through long periods where I'm not really playing until there's an update or there's a new expedition where there's new stuff in the story and there's a limited time, and so. But anyways, Valheim has a VR mod that is actually a pretty good VR mod. It's not perfect. It feels like it doesn't quite translate the force of your swing into how hard you are hitting in the game, but that may be just a limitation of what they're able to do with the mod interface in the game. You know,
Right. That's what I was thinking. The
yeah,
mod is definitely going to limit it
right.
to some degree.
But so it's like I'm going like, and I'm chopping a log, like completely realistic force there, huh?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good VR mod implementation, and it's been pretty fun. And for those of you who have been living under a rock and don't know what Valheim is, it's a survival game where you are a Viking that has been brought to the Valheim, which is the 10th realm of Norse mythology. I think it was made up by the developers of the game. Odin has a 10th realm where he's basically
Ooh, who knew?
imprisoned eldritch monsters. It's okay, and the eldritch monsters are now awakening. So he sends you, his most trusted Viking warrior, to go deal with that. And you are
So we're
carried
back to the
there.
original story.
You are carried there by a giant Hugin, which is one of Odin's ravens. Hugin and Munin. And he drops you off, and then he lets you know, by the way, you have forgotten almost everything that you know, and you have to relearn it. Why don't you start by gathering sticks and rocks, and then you can make a stone axe. Yeah. So as you go and you progress and you gather material, it unlocks new things you can build and craft and all that, and you level up your strength and agility by doing stuff. So the more you sprint, the better you get at sprinting. The more you jump, the better you get at jumping. So,
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and it's got a little bit of history to it because you are there to deal with the threat of the monsters. So,
Right.
you are introduced to the location of a boss in the game right away, but you have to build up to be strong enough to go defeat him. So, and it's multiplayer if you're playing as a community server and all that. So,
I was going to say it sounds a lot like a survival-based game, sort of like even Saints and Sinners. To put together enough stuff to defeat your enemies and get to the end. And now with the Saints and Sinner update, they said, well, they finally gave you an ending to the game as opposed to just a wave shooter. So that was nice.
Right. And part of the reason why I'm enjoying it more than I would say Minecraft is because honestly, Norse mythology appeals to me more. And the graphics are better.
Well, with a name like Sword and Fire, I never would have.
Yeah.
It's not something I ever would have come to the conclusion.
Yeah. So, I mean,
technically,
Skyrim falls under kind of Norse mythology, an altered version of it,
Right. I mean, right. There's only a few basic mythologies, so that we use.
But yeah, and so yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it's pretty good, I think. So there are a few things that I would do a little bit differently, like is head-based turning, and I'd rather be say controller-based, so I can go that way.
The mod as well.
I'd like to be able to go that way and go, ooh, what's that? Without going,
Right. Yeah. No, I understand. I completely understand. What shocks me though is that here we are talking about this and understanding, and the people watching us obviously understand, and the people that I talk to and I talk about virtual reality and watch their, they nod, and you say, have you ever done virtual reality? No. Do you know what it's about? Not really. And it's like, seriously, still.
Well,
So
yeah. Well, on the other hand, I get I've been getting some people asking me about it, so just more and more as well. So I'm bringing it up in conversation. So it's getting there. You
Oh
know?
no, I understand that it
Yeah,
has to, because
yeah,
everything is gearing towards the self-driving car and the virtual and the augmented and the
right,
XR. I'm sure
right.
Legendary Keith is like salivating, but we'll see what happens. Right now, though, it does really look like the end of this year, beginning of next year, there's going to be a major push against Facebook. The competitors are
Maybe.
coming.
And I mean, I understand, and I'm all for a competitor, that just
Right.
drives innovation and it gives consumers choices, and it's a good thing.
And
Yeah,
it keeps Facebook
but
upgrading their
yeah,
Quest 2 until it's broken.
yeah, but I'm not in favor of competition just because we hate Facebook or whatever. I
Oh, no, no.
want the competition
Yes,
because we want to make our own good product. You
right.
know,
Well,
so,
I've always been agnostic with tech. It's
yeah,
like whatever the best one is the
right,
one that I would use. It doesn't
right.
matter what the name on it is, unless the name is a name of people that stop doing stuff like Google.
True enough.
You know,
Yes, I mean,
that left a bad taste.
I love a lot of the things Google has done, but yeah, they have a habit of killing their product lines. I
I
mean,
had the
one
Asus
that
ZenFone
directly
AI.
affected me and my some my potential income making. No, I was a Google Help Out guy. I was established and early on to beta tester of it, and I was in the process of building it into a business, and I had the business cards that they provided and everything, and then sorry, it's gone.
Um,
Yeah.
I, I had the ZenFone AR, which was the only Google phone ever built with LiDAR, and that was
Mhm.
5 years ago, and it's like um, they were just so far ahead, and then they killed it off, and it's the biggest selling feature on the iPhone and the
Right.
iPad. So it's like,
Right.
what's wrong with you people?
Well, I mean, to, to be fair, they are primarily an advertising company. That's where the bulk of the money comes from, is the ads. And all these other things are experiments they're doing technically. So, but yes, I know what you mean. It's like, come on, Google.
Right. I mean, and that would have held water if we had the same discussion 5 years ago. But ever since they had Alphabet's, it's weird spinning a parent
Yeah,
company off of a non-parent company.
right,
Alphabet is the one to absorb the losses, like Google is the front. But
right.
no, they're doing enough technological development at
Well, yeah,
Alphabet that they don't have to keep all the crap off from Google. I mean, it's just not that world anymore. It's a
right,
very unclear cut world right now. So
yeah,
I think that in my youth, I worked for Xerox, and I watched them sell off everything that was really going to be worth something now then, and
right,
it's like they gave up their position even though they had one. I mean, they were the
right.
first ones with graphical user interface and the
Yep,
mouse,
yep,
and never brought it to market. So
right, right.
um,
Yeah, I
crazy
know.
stuff, really crazy stuff.
Yep, yep. But let's move on from the really crazy stuff and move on to the even more really crazy stuff, such as new releases like Rhythm of the Universe Ionia, which
Yeah,
is
I
one
don't
that
know
I
about
was
that one.
kind of looking forward to because I played it in the Team Demo Festival thing, and it was good. It had a couple bugs, but I figured they would iron the bugs out by the time it was released. Um, and it seemed well made, seemed cool. It was a cool environment, and the story was not the deepest of the stories, but it was enough to provide you with a reason to keep exploring, as though the world itself wasn't enough of a reason. Yeah. And so I was
Okay.
looking forward to it, And then it came out last week, and everyone's the thing is only an hour long, and that the story is really shallow, and that the only reason to explore it at all is the world itself, all the cool things in the world. But
like Mist.
yeah, but
the
it's got a lot of areas where you can't go, even though so visually it looks like you should be able to go because they've got invisible walls blocking you in, which I understand. You know, they want you in the playable area, but really better design is to make it look like that's an area where you can't go, not make it look like it's an area where you can go and then prevent you.
Yeah, that would just be frustrating. That would be ridiculous. You'd be trying to fix the game, or wondering what the designer was thinking. I got it.
Right. So sounds like I would be disappointed if I bought it, and I would refund it because of how short it was. So I have not bought it, which is a shame because I wanted to see what else they brought into it and all. But it's an hour long.
That's crazy.
If you are exploring everything that you possibly can, less than an hour long if you just do the story. That's a tech demo, not a game.
Exactly. Well, that's just it. Is they're used to the tech demos being 5 minutes on the go, or on maybe the Quest 1. But by the time we're here, when Facebook is selling you your second Quest for an extra $100, these guys better start thinking about the value you're getting out of the game.
Right. And like I've always said, if a game is shorter than the refund window length, you're going to get a lot of refunds on it if people buy it. Because it's so short that, hey, I played it, I beat it. Ooh, I still have 20 minutes of the playtime on it before I can't refund it. So, no refund, I get my money back.
Right.
Which
is, I hate doing that. I really, I am picky when I'm much more picky now than I was when I was building the library.
Right.
But now that my library is built and I probably haven't played 80% of the games to conclusion, I can afford to be a little more choosy as the games come out. Wait till the daily deal or the bundle deal or whatever.
Right.
I have a feeling we'll see more of those towards the holiday season.
Oh, probably. But yeah, it still is a beautiful game, and the environments are well done and engaging. It's way too short. That's the biggest flaw with it. Ionia, is way too short.
Well, today I was watching.
If it were an hour and a half, I could say, okay, if it's like $15, which is about what it is, I could, okay, but an hour or less, no. That's just way too short.
It's like buying an 80-page book. This is not going to fill me.
Right. Well, back in the day, 80-page books, as refresh said, what they used to sell.
That's true, and some of them are still doing it. They're serializing their books like Stephen King did with The Green Mile, or you can buy the individual.
And meanwhile, I've got a 1,296-page book that I'm reading.
That's about the size of the books I normally read. I just finished a 1,500-pager, so yeah, it's great.
3 of the Stormlight Archives. What is Oathbringer, Oathtaker, whatever it is. So
I think I read the Stormlight Archives. That's where they do the magic.
That's when we're walking up the wall and the lashing. Yeah, and they had a VR experience of that. That was like $10 for a 20-minute thing.
Yeah, you couldn't figure it out. You couldn't really figure it out from reading it. You couldn't figure it out from playing it. So that one never went over the way it should have, because in the book it sounded fantastic.
Well, I was disappointed with what I saw of that, because you're not walking up the wall, you are teleporting up the wall. They had to teleport locomotion for it, not walking. And I'm sorry, I know motion sickness and all that, but even back then there were people saying, hey, let us actually walk up the wall and actually experience the being on the wall like that. And yeah, it induces motion sickness, but it was supposed to in the book,
Right.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be confusing and disorienting.
Right.
That was the whole point.
Right.
That was part of your weaponry.
Right. So, anyways, we digress.
Yes, we do. But that would be great if they could actually turn that into a real game. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The whole storyline would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I played a side quest game, or yeah, there was a big thing a while back. Someone listed all the various forms of VR locomotion, right? And one of them, and he had a link to the app that allowed you to try it, was essentially lashing. You to pick a block on that side and aim and press the button, and you're moving toward that. And then you look up, or press a block there, and you are now moving toward that block, and you can reorient your body as needed. And it was lashing. Yeah.
Right. That's just it. Is like you can call it whatever you want as long as you get that feeling.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it could totally work in a VR game. And if you have things far enough away on the sides, like you do in Echo Arena, everything's really far away from you. It'll reduce motion sickness for most people. I mean, you can play Echo without motion sickness, and that's part of the reason is it's so far away from the sides, so you're not getting that.
And even when I was, the way that they did it, you just never felt the motion sickness. I mean, to me,
technical issues.
I mean, you know me, and I do tend to get somewhat motion sick, especially when I first start a game. And that was I think the only game that I ever played from the beginning that no motion sickness whatsoever from the first minute.
Yeah.
And so Top One also.
It would be possible to do that, yeah. I mean, they could totally make a Stormlight Archives based game, have you play as Kaladin with the lashing and all that, or it has the assassin in white with his lashing.
I'm sure he's going to be the boss battle.
Yeah.
For all you people that haven't read the Stormlight Archives,
he had lashing
if
down.
You read, enjoy. Oh man, those guys that was amazing. Seriously, any sci-fi fans out there, if you get the Stormlight Archives, read it. You'll love it. I guarantee you. I haven't met anybody else that has.
The first book was a little slow and a little bit of a plod to get through, but it picked up towards the end, and the next books are better in terms of the pacing.
Right. Well, those are The Way of Kings, Brian Sanderson. That's also,
Well, that's the first one, yeah.
Right, I know, and that was the one that was free on Amazon. It was
right.
But the first two chapters, you're not going to understand until you get to the end of the book, or maybe the middle of the second. So don't give up.
Well, yeah, and to make matters worse, is part of his Cosmere, meaning shared universe with other books that he has written. So
very cool. The interplay between the different worlds and the different sciences that they have, or mystic arts that equate to sciences. It's very so well done. I love this stuff, and it's all classified, I think, as young adult, which is what.
Well, because I mean, I can see that it doesn't really have a whole lot of what you'd consider adult stuff, I guess. You know, it doesn't. He doesn't really have any.
You mean sexuality?
Yeah, he doesn't really have any sex scenes. He doesn't have a lot of foul language in his books. He doesn't have any really super graphic, gory scenes. You know, so I could see that.
Actually, they do go into the other race and their sexuality, and they do go into the violence between them. So it might be limited, but when he lets it go, it goes. You know, it's not exactly not violence. Don't think you're going to be reading.
Well, on the other hand, there was a young adult book that I read ages ago that my sister recommended to me. It was a horror book, and I got to one part, and I'm like, this is like NC-17 rated right here.
Yeah, I know. You have to be. Well, that's just it. Listen, if most parents read Harry Potter, the last couple of books, they wouldn't let their kids read the last couple of books of Harry Potter. It just isn't a children's book at that point. You know?
Right.
It started off that way, but the series gets very dark towards the end. If you don't know and you're just handing it to an 8-year-old kid or 9, you could be blowing their minds. You know.
Well, yeah. And speaking of series and the companies that make series, Netflix has been getting into VR lately, as we've mentioned in our past stuff. Well, they have a VR app out now on App Lab called Eden Unearthed. It's a tie-in to a series that they are going to be having. It's an animated series, and in this game, you are greeted by a robotic voice and is telling you about the world, about how there are no more humans. I watched the gamer tag do the video on it, and I think he either didn't show parts or he completely didn't listen to the robot telling him to grab the disc in front of him, which tells part of the backstory, which tells about how there was a human child found and then raised by the robots. But anyways, this is No More Humans. Is the Earth is a garden run by the robots, perfectly maintaining everything, and then you are driving around in a scooter thing and collecting apples for the biofuel. It's so it's a little bit of a Subway Surfer like thing where you have to avoid the obstacles to pick up the apples, and it gets you to the next spot where you can look around and grab the disc, go through another little bit of the anime story thing, and then move on to the next location, and it ends up hinting at something potentially dark at the end of it. And it's a tie-in to the series. It's basically an ad.
Okay, that's on App Lab. I have to take a look at that. Well, didn't that get terrible reviews though? Didn't they say that
it didn't get the greatest reviews? No, yeah. I mean, it wasn't. As a game, is very simplistic and it's short. It's really an interactive ad, honestly.
Exactly. That's what I sort of got the impression. It's like, no, I don't want to take an hour to download an interactive ad. It's like maybe when I get back.
Yeah. So that can wait until you're back in the States with the faster internet.
Yeah, well, I went to download a game or two that Mikey wanted to play, and it was like, well, yeah, if I start downloading it now, maybe next week, we can get a run at it there. So I don't know how multiplayer will play yet, because I noticed that every now and then the signal is fantastic, and then I see the jitter and the ping will drop from 2 milliseconds to 30 milliseconds, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, and you've been periodically freezing here for me, but your voice has been going on, so yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, so yeah. Anyways, moving on to upcoming titles, we have Unplugged. which I mistakenly mentioned last week might have been coming out so this week because one person in our Discord said, "Hey, Unplugged is coming this week." According,
I read that,
and I couldn't find it, but it was last minute, so I stuck it in as a I've heard that it might be coming this week. So, but now we have an official release date for it, October 21st.
Oh, I thought it said September 30th. I guess at some point it'll come out. But
no,
I saw VR
the next title is September 30th. Unplugged is October 21st.
Which the write-up this morning said is better than it has any right to be.
Right.
So, hey, that's a good review.
Yeah. And I know RJ was looking up clear plastic guitars to be able to hold a guitar while he's doing it.
Well, I mean, that would be kind of cool, but they gave you one with Guitar Hero, so why not?
Right.
But,
right.
I'm sure they'll be selling fake guitars pretty soon. For
they already do sell fake guitars.
I know, but they'll be labeled for this.
Okay.
Labeled specifically for this.
Maybe.
So. Color coding, and then they'll have grips for VR cover. VR cover will sell you the grips and the pick.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it looks like it should be pretty good. And it looked honestly like a Guitar Hero kind of game,
Right.
Got progressing through building up your band and your rep and all that, and so yeah.
Kind of cool. We'll see how it goes. It's either going to be a lot of fun or you're going to put it down after a few hours.
Right. Now I haven't heard anything, but if it has a spectator camera built into it so that you can record from a third-person perspective, I think that would help it to take off a lot more.
Or the iOS app that they can use also to put you into.
So, well, yeah, if it works with that,
right,
to do that, yeah.
Well, they should make it work with that. That is the type of thing you want to do. So.
Yep. So, and next we have Sweet Surrender coming out September 30th. I
don't like the graphics. I was looking at it this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the graphics either. It's a roguelike game where you are climbing and grappling and shooting, and all the mechanics seem fine, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the graphics either. But it may have good enough gameplay that once you are in it, the graphics don't matter. I don't know.
I'm not going to give it to myself until it gets 4.9 on 1,000 reviews.
What if it gets 4.99?
Well, then something's wrong with the Oculus metric system. You don't ever see it go to 100th point. But once again, at this point, I really need it to be the best of both worlds. I want the graphics and I want the gameplay, and there's enough games that I don't have to settle for something that's not there.
Right. Well, moving on, we have Loco Dojo 2 coming out next week. Or not next week, October 7th. So sorry. Next week after Sweet Surrender comes out.
So I haven't seen anything on that one yet.
That's been out for a while on Steam, and it's basically a series of carnival mini games, wacky mini games. So,
which I'm not a big fan of wacky games, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm a fan of wacky mini games. I'm just not a fan of that being all it is.
Right. Collection of wacky mini games.
Yeah,
that's just like should be in any of the rooms type thing, or any of our spaces.
Right. Now, if you have a game that has a story and you go into a carnival in the story, and there are wacky mini games in the carnival, that I like. But a game that's only wacky mini games, that's Wonderglade, and I didn't play Wonderglade very often because
Wonderglade was great the first 3 times I played it.
Right.
Because it was pretty and it was interesting, and then
right.
it was, so.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
I don't need many more Wonderglades if I want to see.
I mean, even in real life, I couldn't spend all day in the Midway playing the Midway games. Number one, I'd be broke, but number two, it'd be boring.
Look, you go to Universal, you can't spend your life in Dr. Seuss world either. You got to move around. Otherwise, they have one world. It's like
right.
One ride.
Exactly. So,
like
anyways,
Star Wars.
Yeah. Moving on yet again, we have Powerbeats VR that I just ran across coming out on October 20th. This is it's coming to the Quest on October 20th. It's been out on Steam. I have played it. It's a rhythm game, a workout game, and it allows you to hook up the trackers and whatnot, and heart rate, I think, and it asks you your height and your weight so that it can properly to calculate how many calories you might be burning and all that. So, and it's a really cool game. I enjoyed it. And it's coming to the Quest. It would be even better because then I'd be able to play it without those couple milliseconds of latency because there's a virtual desktop.
Well, eventually, I guess they'll get rid of that. It seems to be that they're working on eliminating as much.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's perfectly playable on virtual desktop, and I was like in the middle of the pack on the leaderboards on it, just beating people that were playing natively with wires. So yeah, it's perfectly playable.
You can't.
Yeah.
Right. 2 milliseconds is just not that big. But if you're, once again, when you're playing multiplayer, every millisecond counts. So.
Yes. In a multiplayer first-person shooter, every millisecond counts. In a rhythm game, it counts, but it's not as important because you can learn to adjust for that.
Exactly. You can compensate, but not in a shooter if your opponent doesn't have to. You're not going to do very well.
Yeah. So,
and what other new releases do we have? I mean, it seems like there's new releases coming out on App Lab every other day.
I know. I mean, I've kind of given up time to keep up with that. And
hey, you could always buy the $240.
And I'm only noting really significant titles releasing on there.
I know.
So yeah. As a matter of fact, there was one that released on there recently that I was like, oh, it's an App Lab now, and I completely forgot to mention it. And I forget which one it is now, so I'm not going to mention it.
Okay. Well, to me, the most interesting one on App Lab was, I'm sure you have it down in the news or somewhere.
The 240 one?
Yeah.
It's in the news section, yeah.
Have we reached the news section yet? Or do we?
Well, we are going into the news section, starting with John Carmack's announcement about the Oculus Go.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was reading that this afternoon when I sent you that little thing. It was like he said he's been pushing for this for a while, and it made me feel very happy I kept it go. I'm really happy I kept it now.
Yeah. So yeah, the Oculus Go will be getting a side-loadable unlocked OS soon that will give you root access, so you can do anything you want with it. Which, for most people, that's probably not going to really do a whole lot for them, but for developers, for educators, or to people making apps for educators, that could be a huge boon. So
it's tremendous, really, especially if they already own it.
Right.
It's no extra expense to go out and start your developing. So I love Carmack. I mean, he's the best part of the whole development of the VR spectrum, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
But that $240 app. I mean,
we're not there yet.
Okay, keep going.
Keep teasing it, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So everybody doesn't want to hear about it anymore. So go ahead.
But yeah, I am looking forward to seeing what people do with the Go now that they will have unfettered access to it. If I remember right, I think it was supposed to be capable of 90 hertz, I think, isn't it?
Right, but it was never approved for it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can't tweak it now to do it.
Right, exactly. If we're getting unfeathered access to it, it can run 90 hertz games. People can develop third-party accessories for it now that they couldn't have before because of the limitations,
Right.
So yeah,
and also
it could completely revitalize it in theory.
Correct. And at that point, Nolo could come back in the game, and all of a sudden you have yourself, six stuff.
And ultra cheap stuff headset.
I know, it's incredible. It's like going back to Daydream.
Yep.
It's
well,
very interesting.
In some ways, the Go was one of the most, or was more comfortable, and had bigger lenses or whatever, so it was a really comfortable headset,
I agree. It's super light, and but the controller was definitely limited. They would have to come out with a better controller.
Yes. So, anyways, speaking of what you were speaking of earlier about the pass-through, Scarred Ghost put out a video and a blog post showing how you can use pass-through AR with the Guardian turned off.
Correct.
So you can turn your whole house into a pass-through AR environment.
Which I did yesterday. It was fantastic, and you just hit the little click of the I button in settings, quick settings, and bam, you were in pass-through mode. Yep. So here I am in a strange room, and it was like, as opposed to where I always knew where I was in my home, now I was able to go to pass through and walk through the room, go put everything away while I'm still wearing the goggles, check my phone, all the other crap.
Right.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So when they finally put color lenses in there on the 3 or the Pro or whatever they're going to call it on your cameras, that we can bring color into, that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. And I think by putting Paws in charge of everything, that was a good move.
Yeah. And what I am kind of wondering is, currently right now, the pass-through does not detect the floor and all that. It doesn't detect the surfaces, but I would imagine that possibly someone could introduce software slam into their particular app to detect the surfaces and whatnot, and then place objects on surfaces. Because right now is the old style of AR on the phone where it was basically just a sticker on the phone that wherever you pointed, that's where it was, and you couldn't anchor it anywhere. So if someone could get a efficiently running software slam detection in their app, they could have a pass-through AR that you could anchor stuff with.
Right. Well, absolutely. I've been playing with some stuff on the iPhone with a couple of different apps, and you can anchor your stuff wherever you want to, and they're all using it for the convergence. It's all converging on the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, 60.ai was doing occlusion AR with real-time meshes on the iPhone, on the Android, before the LiDAR version of the iPhone.
I know.
And it was all software, and it was just based on the camera.
Right. I was
On the
doing
camera's
that.
input, and it was,
Very good.
like a couple of seconds at most of scanning the room, and you were good. It remembered it, and it accurately detected, and it was real time after that. So, yeah.
It was great. I used to use it all the time, but they killed that also. In
Yeah.
Google
Well, it got
Playground, I think.
bought out, I think. But yeah.
I don't know, but they had it, and now it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, it kind of got rendered obsolete by the LiDAR.
But again, which they introduced 5 years ago. So
yeah.
How do you get
Anyways,
overshadowed by your own?
Yeah. Well, so 60.ai was not a Google thing, but
No, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
what they've been doing with AR and what they've been doing with being able to separate monuments. Have you seen what they've done? What Google has done with AR, and they can take like 100,000 pictures of a monument or a famous place taken by all different people on all different devices, and they've devised an algorithm that will separate the actual physical object from people and turn it into a three-dimensional representation of that object by compiling all of these pictures, which is intense.
Yeah, it's photogrammetry. Yeah, really advanced photogrammetry. But yeah,
really advanced.
Yeah,
and I think I've seen like 5 different models that they've made with it so far. That you can take out all of the weather and you can put it into a nighttime setting and all the other stuff also. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah. Speaking of what else is kind of cool is RecCon is going on this weekend.
I was reading.
Yes, the first convention held in Rec Room. So, and it's free to attend, and it's going on right now. Let me go jump in there.
There you go.
In my new unlocked Go.
Once again, I told you what my internet speed is. I don't know I'll be able to attend.
Yeah.
But,
I hope to be able to attend a little bit of it, but as always, I've got a little bit of a busy weekend. So we'll see. If I do manage to attend any of it, we will certainly talk about it next week. So. Yeah. Meanwhile, Boz has taken over as CTO in 2022. He'll be Chief Technology Officer.
Correct. And his vision is the metaverse. So,
or as Macy says, the metaverse.
Okay, we have to correct ladies.
Well, he's got a Dutch accent, so
it's okay. People get this when I don't speak Spanish down here, so we can at least pronounce metaverse the right way. Tethers, something. But bars, no. I sit on my bars, so sorry.
Well, it could be worse.
I know.
So, anyways, it'll be interesting to see what changes that brings. So, we'll see.
Look, it's going to change it
to say about it.
I think Boz has really been the unofficial CTO for like 6 months now. Anyway, and I think it's going to go in the same thing. Yeah, I think it's just going to keep going in the same direction, but maybe faster. And he's under pressure because now the other guys are moving, and I'm sure that's the reason for the $100, plus quest, and I'm sure that's the reason for.
Well, that may be why he's taken over, is because he's got. And not to put the existing CTO down or whatever, but maybe Boz is better equipped to drive Facebook faster to stay ahead
Exactly.
competition.
He probably has, yeah, I would say he has more pull than the other guy
Right.
had, or maybe he's been given more pull now that they see
Right.
the competition really heating
Right.
up. So
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident he'll keep it going. And the fact that Carmack was able to get them to do what he wanted to with the Go means
Right.
he's still in the game as well. So, you
Yep.
know.
It took him a long time, but he was able to get it done. Yeah.
It seems like they put him on the shelf, but they keep
I can
listening.
just imagine every meeting that he's in. Guys? Guys?
Uh-oh.
Fine, John, here you go.
Right, exactly. You know, 6 months later, 2 years later, okay, shut him up, do this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'll happen when the 3 or the Pro gets announced. You know, it's sort of like the way Apple says, oh, here comes the iPhone 13, but whoa, the iPhone 14. Seriously, dude, I haven't even laid out my money for the 13, right. And you're telling me that the 14 is going to blow this away?
Right.
Maybe
yeah, I know. But right now, I think it goes until the 30th. You can, if you buy a Quest 2, you get the next one for $100 off.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
No, for 100. Yeah, is it 100 off or for an extra $99?
100 off, if I remember right. So
whichever it is,
which is like a third off of the price if you get the 128 gigabyte one. If you get the 256 gigabyte, it's obviously not a third off. It's a fifth off at that point.
Right, exactly. But still, it's something, which is more generous than they usually are. You used to get a game, you know, right. So $100 is better. That's at least 4 games.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty big deal. And if you are watching it and you want to take advantage of that deal, remember, we have referral codes for you so that you and me both get $30 store credit after you buy. So hit me up. I'll give you a referral code.
Okay. Press like, subscribe. Let's start doing this.
Yeah.
Come on. You have to tell these people that they have to like and subscribe in the most vicious and violent
we're not
way.
at the end of the video yet. And they already know that, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
Like and
the $240 app.
So before we get to that,
you're a torturer today.
There was a leak of next-gen Oculus controllers.
Oh, those weird-looking.
Well, basically, it looks like the Oculus controller that we have, but without the tracking ring. So
I know, which is
and they've got cameras on them, which is leading people to speculate that they will be tracking themselves. And you know, I think a related leak just talks about how the headset will have a color pass-through camera here, and then two constellation cameras on the side that will shoot out a laser pattern that presumably the controllers will detect and use to track themselves, and that will also allow for hand tracking, as well as the
possibly allowed
as well as the slam detection.
It also seemed to indicate that it was being made to be used in sunlight as well, not have sunlight interfere with their use.
I didn't see that, but that would be cool. Yeah.
I saw a tweet from RJ yesterday that mentioned to Zimtalk, I think, or Gamertag, that they might get their wish. You know, and he was showing them the camera.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. I've thought about making my own accessories that would be basically sunglasses that stick around where the camera bubbles are. Yeah, it's the sunglasses so that you can go outside in bright light. Yeah,
I know, but it's already not the best quality reproduction. once you start putting on a circular polarizer, which you would have to do.
Oh, it wouldn't be a polarizer. It would just be regular sunglasses. Reduce the intensity.
I understand.
Ideally, a polarizer would be better because that would get rid of the glare, but regular non-polarized would probably help a lot too.
To some degree,
and it might be enough. You should never know.
Well, the problem is it depends on how hot it is outside when you're using it. That might work in the winter, but in the summer you might still melt your headset if it's 90 degrees out or 95 degrees, just the heat generated from you and the headset.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose. That's when you keep a fan going on your side. You have your wife following you around with a giant banana leaf going.
Okay. See, I never even thought of that. Me and my digital thinking. Back to the $240 app.
That is the next thing, yes. Fetal Heart VR is a $240 App Lab title.
Correct.
And it's not for regular people, obviously. It's a medical training app. And it's super expensive for us, but in the medical world, that's probably like, oh my goodness, that's outrageous that it's so low. Yeah.
Well, you still have to buy.
And they also sell accessories to attach to this so that it feels like an ultrasound wand, and I guess that's something else so that it feels like a stomach, right. So you can run the and get all the tactile feedback of actually doing an ultrasound on a pregnant woman's stomach.
That sounds great. It really does. They're doing it in medical school. Why wouldn't they do this? Yeah. This is obviously non-threatening. It's not like you're teaching them surgery or anything at home. And I think it's fantastic that we're finally getting to this. That
we're finally getting to the $240 level?
No, that they're able to sell a medically approved commercial training program for that low a price, and for people to be able to practice in their home, to become, to do the sign wherever they are. They could be anywhere.
Right. Right. Yeah, and and I'm sure that in the medical field, this is going to save a lot of money, even though it looks expensive to us, a $240 app, but in the medical field, that's probably going to save a lot of money on training, because if they have to go out and buy a Quest for them and this app, that probably still costs like 10 times less than how they normally do it.
Right. Exactly. And the cost will come down over time.
Yeah.
So but and now they'll be able to train people at distances, and so people can even learn it before they attend a school. They might only need a shorter amount of time to hone their craft after the practice. Yep. I like it. To me, and it seems very reasonably priced for medical type. You pay that much for a photo editing program.
Well, you would pay more for that, more than that for a photo editing.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I remember when there were no subscription options on Photoshop, and it was hideously expensive. It was like, I think the lowest you could get it for would be like 600 something, and then it went up all the way to 1,000 or more.
I remember I first loaded my first Photoshop, which didn't even have a version number, and I loaded off on 52 floppy disks onto the computer.
I remember those days. Insert disk 2. Okay, insert disk 3. Insert disk 4. Insert disk 5.
Go back to disk 2. Go back now to disk 6. It's like, it was kind of crazy, but it definitely separated the men from the boys and the women from the girls. So you had to really want to know it.
Yes.
No easy way.
Yeah.
But other than the $40 app. That to me is groundbreaking in the sense that obviously VR has become good enough for the medical profession to think that it's.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've already
I know.
been working on
Same.
medical things, all along. This is just, I think, the first official one in the App Lab. I could be wrong. I know there are other medical ones in there, but I don't know if they're officially adopted medical ones.
Right. I think this is the first one but still, it just means that virtual reality is being accepted, at least in the educational field, which is
right. And so this is also showcasing why we need App Lab, because this is an app that would not be allowed on the store, because almost nobody would be buying it on the store because it's a very limited market compared to all the games, which are a huge market.
And to be very honest with you, after Facebook saw what just happened between Apple and Epic, I think that they did a very good thing by opening App Lab.
Yeah.
Because Apple, I think, is going to lose a lot of their income when other companies follow Epic and say, no.
Right. Well, yeah,
So
and all the other companies are going to have to follow suit because a precedent has been set, and if they, if they don't follow suit, they'll get sued and they will lose. So yeah.
So that was a
yeah, and I still have kind of mixed feelings about that because I'm like, yeah, good for developers to get more money that way, but at the same time, it's like, how they're gonna? I mean, a lot of the stores, just the friends, they're not really going to be hurt by it. There will still be enough developers not doing that they'll get enough money, But it's like it does potentially complicate things a little bit.
Well, especially with, like they were saying, with their security, but they were allowing me to download Chrome they're allowing me to download all of this Google stuff onto the iPhone, and they say, oh, no, you have to get rid of it or the security is gone. What?
Right. I still think that was a little bit of fear mongering and sour grapes about having lost the Epic case.
Right. I know.
Because
especially
being able to make a purchase on a separate website to get in-game content, which is delivered through the game, that's no more a security risk than purchasing in the game to get content that's delivered through the game.
Right. For Facebook. Right. They're the only ones to.
There's no security risk there. There's a monetary loss.
Security risk.
That's not a security risk.
No. Well, not for us, but for them, I guess. When you're only that wealthy, you have to keep the money coming in.
But yeah. So, anyways, that brings us to the actual end of our show. Let us know if you bought that $240 app. No.
I'll do.
Yes. If you do buy it and try it out, let us know, and we will feature you front and center on our next show. We may even invite you in for an interview. Add you to our. Let them know.
You could do the next podcast. We'll do it. Win the next podcast show.
So, anyways, as always, remember to like, subscribe, and drag your friends over and take their finger attached to their body or not, and click like and subscribe for them as well.
It's a tablet. I don't have anything to click.
Well, you have stuff to tap. With the finger.
No, through the finger. Stylus, please. Man of leisure these days.
I see that.
So,
all right.
Anyway, on that note, now that they've dragged their friends in and their unconscious body is laying behind them, you could download the App Lab and do a reading on the sonogram.
Yes.
No.
Pushes, knock them unconscious by making them like and subscribe, and then to download that $240 App Lab app, order the attachment to make this feel like an ultrasound wand. Buy that artificial stomach, put it on your friend, and then scan them.
And send us the results. And we'll definitely put that as a highlight in the next show.
Yes. In other news, bye. Have a great week.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.